Lesson 8.6, operations with radical expressions. So, if I look at this, it says first simplify the radical. Then once you have simplified the radical, then you're going to add and subtract like terms. That means the coefficient is the only thing that's going to change. Okay? So if I look at this, monomials. They have the same like term. You look at the coefficients, you add them, you write down the variable. Same thing here. They both have b's. So this is subtraction, so I subtract the coefficients and I leave the variable alone. Now, if we have radicals, let's look at these. Let's look inside. This is exactly the same as this. All we do is change the coefficients. 8 radical 3. Here, the radicals are exactly the same. I don't do anything with the radicals. I look at their coefficients. 7 minus 2 is 5, and that's my answer. Down here, this has a 5, this has a 5. This has a 7, this has a 7. So I combine like terms. 4 minus 2. It's going to get 2 radical 5. Then I look at the coefficients here. I have 3 and I have 7. Plus 10 radical 7. Over here, I have 19. I have 19. I have 6. I have 6. So I'm going to combine like terms. I look at this. Oops, this is minus 3. So that's going to be 14 radical 19. That was the wrong blue, but that's okay. Negative 14 plus 11 is going to get negative 3 radical 6. Okay, on this one, we need to simplify our radicals first. Okay, so this is going to be 25 times 3. So the square root of 25, the square root of 3. So 3 times 5, radical 3. So that's 15 radical 3. This next one, 16 times 3. So the square root of each one of these. So 6 times, oh, there's a minus sign. 6 times 4, radical 3. So it's going to get me negative 24 radical 3. And last but certainly not least, there's a minus sign. This is 9 times 3. So 3 radical 3. Now, all of the radicands are exactly the same. They all have a 3 for their radicand. So I'm just going to add and subtract the coefficients. So if I do 15 minus 24 minus 3, I'm going to get negative 12 radical 3. Over here, simplify my radical. 25 times 2. So I get negative 11. Nope, try that again. If I take the square root, I get 5 and I get radical 2. So negative 55 radical 2. Then I have a plus, the plus sign down here. This is 16 times 2. If I take the square root, I have the 2 from the outside. I have 4 radical 2. So it'll get me plus 8 radical 2. Then last but not least, there is a minus sign. This would be 4 times 2. Take the square root. So I have 18 times 2 radical 2. So I get negative 36 radical 2. They all have radical 2, the square root of 2. So I'm going to take negative 55, I'm going to add 8, and I'm going to subtract 36. And I get negative 83 radical 2. Okay. I'm going to come down here. Multiplying radical expressions. Multiply the coefficients, multiply the radicands, simplify the roots. Okay, so I multiply the coefficients, that's 15. I multiply the x's and I get x squared. Multiply, I get 15. Multiply, I get the square root of x squared. Ooh, the square root of x squared is x. Now, sometimes you'll actually see it with absolute values on it, and it just means that you have to be plugging in a positive x value. Okay, some of you have never multiplied these. I'm going to teach you the box method, and you may have seen this with distributive property before. So I'm going to put, oh, is I supposed to do it like that? I don't actually need to multiply it like that because that is, maybe I wrote these down wrong. Hold on, give me just a second. This is 8, 6. Did I write these down wrong? No, I didn't. Okay, there's more than one way to do this. So if I was going to do the box method to multiply these, you multiply the first, to get this box right here, you multiply the 2x and the 4x and get 8x squared. To get here, you multiply the 4x and the 3x, and you get 12x squared. 2x times 5x gets 10x squared. 3x times 5x gets 8x squared. No, it does not. It gets 15. I was adding instead of multiplying. So I have 8x squared plus 12x squared plus 10x squared plus 15x squared. So 20, 30, 45x squared. Now, why they had us do it this way, I don't know, but couldn't you, seriously? Couldn't you just simplify in here and get 5x? Simplify in here and get 9x? And that would get you 45x squared. Not sure why we had to do it that way. I'm going to do both ways. I'll do the box method first, and then I'll do it the other way. 2, oh, that was weird. 2 radical 2, 3 radical 2, 4 radical 2 plus 5 radical 2. This would get me, let's see, 8 radical 4. This would get me 12 radical 4. This would get me 10 radical 4. This would get me 15 radical 4. But boys and girls, didn't we learn that radical 4 is the same thing as 2? So this is 8 times 2, which is 16. 12 times 2, which is 24. 10 times 2, which is 20. And 15 times 2, which is 30. So we have 16 plus 24 plus 20 plus 30. Oh, I don't think I can do this one in my head. Nope, 30, 40, 60, 90. Maybe I can do it in my head. And then let's try the easier way to do this. Add these together and you get 5 radical 2. Add these together and get 9 radical 2. If I multiply my coefficients, I get 45. If I multiply my square roots together, I get the square root of 4, which is 2. So 45 times 2, which is 90. So either way, that will come out. Okay, so now let's do these next ones. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this, and I'm going to get 20. Now remember when I did this before, I didn't actually multiply these together if I was going to be simplifying, because 6 is the same thing as 2 times 3. Look at this. I have 2 3s. So that's 20 radical 9 times 2. The square root of 9 is 3. So I have 6 radical 2. 60 radical 2. Over here, take the coefficients and I get negative 27. And then I'm going to multiply these two together, but I'm going to split it up. So 2 times 5 and 2 times 3. Notice I have 2 of these. So that means the square root, oops. So I can take out the 2 and I'm left with 15. So negative 54 radical 15. Okay, then we're going to try the distributive property. This times this. And I'm going to get, what is that going to be? This is going to be 8 radical, and I'm going to leave the 7. Look at this. This is 4 times 2, isn't it? I'm going to leave it like that. Plus, and then I'm going to multiply these two together, and I'm going to get 12 radical 7 squared, or 49. Right? Yep. So I can take the square root of this right here. That's 2. So 8 times 2, radical 14, plus 12 times 7. So I get 16 radical 14 plus 84. Okay, so next I'm going to do this. I'm going to multiply here. I'm going to get negative 28. Now, guys, I know I'm going to do so. I'm going to write it like this first, and there's a reason I'm going to write it like this. It's going to turn to plus because negative times, oops, sorry. I was going to change colors. If I multiply here, negative times a negative is a positive. Then I have 16. I'm going to write this like this for a minute. Okay, I want to come over here to this one on the left. Do you realize that this is 6 times 2? And I know 6 is not a perfect square, but you already have a 6 here and a 6 here. So it would be easier to take the square root. So that would be 6 and then radical 2. Then over here, oh, this is going to be 4 times 2. This is going to be 2 times 3. Wouldn't this also make 4? So I would have 4 squared times 3. So 16 times 4 radical 3. So my answer is, I don't have a clue. I could multiply it, but let's, negative 168 radical 2, and 16, that's 64 radical 3. Make that bigger.